Dread it, run from it, destiny arrives all the same. And now it's here. Or should I say, my MCU villains tier ranking. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris. Welcome back to another Marvel video. Today I'm going to be tier ranking every MCU villain, including the villains from Shang-Chi, Black Widow, and the Marvel Disney Plus shows, because I haven't done a video like this in quite some time. But before I give you guys my tier ranking, definitely hit that like button, comment your favorite villains down below, rank your villains in the comment section. I would love to have a discussion down there because it's always a fun time. And subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any future Marvel videos. So the tiers I have today are the best of the best, great, good, meh, and bad. And I use these same tiers for my MCU Heroes ranking, which you guys should check out. The link will be up above. First up, we have Yellow Jacket from the first Ant-Man movie. I'm going to go ahead and put Yellow Jacket in good. I think this is actually a very good villain for the Ant-Man character. Are his motivations extremely one-dimensional? Yes, they are. But for something about it, I just think that he's a good antagonist for the movie and he works well. I like his suit quite a bit. Next, we have Ghost, who is the villain in Ant-Man and the Wasp, and it's hard to even call this character a villain. I'm going to put her in bad. Ghost is not the best at all. I don't know if we're ever even going to see her again in the MCU. Her character wasn't even in the movie that much. It was more like Walton Goggins and the Agents. Next, we have Drakoff from Black Widow, who is going to be going in the bad category. I do not like Drakoff at all. I really enjoy Black Widow because of the introduction of Yelena, the chemistry she has with Nat. It's a nice send-off to Nat, and there's a nice family dynamic, but when it comes down to the villains, they are arguably the worst in the entire MCU. He's just this brooding Russian guy who runs the Red Room, and there's nothing else to him. He is just an evil figure that is there to have a villain in the movie. Next, we have Killmonger, who I think a lot of people would have in the top 2 or 3 for MCU villains. I myself am going to go great with Killmonger. I think Michael B. Jordan is pretty solid in the role. I do think this is one of the more overhyped characters and villains in the entire MCU. Yes, it is great that they almost make you sympathize with him because you see his backstory in Oakland and you see what happened to him. And so you understand where he's coming from totally, and that's a great villain, so that's why he's in the great tier. But I don't think he's one of the best MCU villains. He's like top 10 still, but he's not in my top 5, I would say. So next is Abomination from the Incredible Hulk, who, if you've seen Shang-Chi, you know this character is in that movie, and you saw that in the trailer as well. Tim Roth does a really good job of playing Emil Blonsky, I think, and he's honestly not the worst villain ever. I think that moving forward, I think this character will have a lot more to do in the MCU. I'm going to go good with Abomination. One of the better Phase 1 villains, I would say. Next, we have Agatha Harkness. It's been Agatha all along. Of course, I have to say that. Agatha being the villain of the show is an interesting move because I think Wanda is damn near the villain of the show, so it's kind of an interesting discussion or debate to have, but Agatha is still a villainous character, and I think we'll see her again in the MCU. I'm not sure. I never thought Agatha was insanely cool. I think she's, again, overhyped. I'll go good with Agatha. I like the opening of that one episode where we see her in the Salem witch trials. Next, we have Aldrich Killian, who I think is one of the most run-of-the-mill villains we've ever seen. He's literally Syndrome from the Incredible Amazing Spider-Man 2's Electro, would go on to have this same plotline. I think Guy Pearce's performance is enough to save it from pure bad, so I'm going to go meh with Aldrich Killian. Still by no means a good villain. Next, we have Alexander Pierce, who, played by Robert Redford, an icon. He's one of the masters behind the Hydra being S.H.I.E.L.D. plotline. I'm going to go great with Alexander Pierce. I think that he is a damn solid villain. Borderline top 10, to be honest with you. And I absolutely love that moment where Nat is wearing the mask and she pulls the gun on him. Did I step on your moment? Iconic. Next, we have Arnhem Zola, who, while he's not straight up a villain of a movie, he's a very villainous presence whose influence spread out throughout the entire MCU with regard to Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D. I have to go great with Arnhem Zola, just especially in Winter Soldier, the one scene where Cap and Black Widow are down in the bunker / basement, and we see how he saved his like AI in the computer, and he's explaining how Hydra was able to infiltrate S.H.I.E.L.D. Damn good scene. Arnhem Zola has always been this perfect evil sidekick. I believe he's played by Toby Jones as well. Great villain, honestly. He's one of those classic Phase 1 MCU characters. Next, we have Batroc, who we see fight Cap in the opening scene of Winter Soldier, and of course, he actually made an appearance in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I'm going to go meh with Batroc. I don't think he's bad. I think that he's better than who we have in bad just because he's a cool fighter, and he's not just outright terrible, so he's meh. The opening scene alone in the Winter Soldier pretty much puts him above the 2 characters I have in bad, honestly. Next, we have Ulysses Claw, who we see first in Age of Ultron. Of course, he's in Black Panther. Andy Serkis plays this character very well, but he's honestly just an arms dealer type villain who's very evil, and there's not much else to them. I'll put Claw in the meh category. Next, we have Taskmaster, who might be the most disappointing villain on this entire list. I'm going bad with Taskmaster. What they did was honestly unforgivable because if you know the history of Taskmaster and the backstory, it is such a cooler concept and vision than what we actually got in the Black Widow movie. Not a fan of where they went with this character remotely, actually, and it's truly one of the letdowns of the movie Black Widow. Next, we have Kaiselius from Doctor Strange, who Mads Mikkelsen is great at playing these villainous roles, but to be honest, he's going in the meh category. A lot of the MCU villains are meh to bad, you'll see by the end of this tier ranking, but Kaiselius, he is so one-dimensional. His plan is just to destroy all the sorcerers. You can see in the picture, he just looks like an evil ancient one almost, with hair. And I don't know why they couldn't have done more with an actor of the caliber of Mads Mikkelsen, but I don't even remember a single line from Kaiselius, and I bet most people don't even remember the guy's name because he is overshadowed by the next villain on this list, which is Dormammu. So they're kind of doing two villains at once in Doctor Strange, the movie, and Dormammu has a leg up on Kaiselius if you're comparing the two villains because he's this omnipotent being who Doctor Strange has to basically annoy to death. I have to go meh with Dormammu as well, right next to Kaiselius. If I'm comparing the two side by side, I like Dormammu more, but I can't really go good with Dormammu. Next is Ego, played by the legendary Kurt Russell. This is actually a good villain, I'll say. Ego, the twist regarding him is very well done, and especially the line where he's like, "It killed me to put that tumor in your mother," and Peter Quill goes, "What?" And then he just lights him up. Really great moment there, and I think it's nice to see the father-son relationship develop leading up to that evil twist. Kurt Russell is just so good at teetering the line between playing the cool good guy and that evil bad guy with an edge. Next we have Shocker from Spider-Man Homecoming. There's two iterations of this character, very brief both of them are. Shocker's going in bad, we barely even see the character, except for this one fight sequence involving a bus outside of the Homecoming dance, but pretty much underused, and I don't know if we're ever going to see Shocker in the MCU again. Next is Hela, who is a great MCU villain. I'm talking top 7, maybe top 5. Cate Blanchette crushes the role, and she is arguably the most powerful villain in the MCU. You could really argue it. She's the goddess of death, and the way that she's able to just destroy pretty much everyone on Asgard, including the Warriors 3, it's brutal. And she does damage to Thor, the god of thunder. If it weren't for Ragnarok itself, she would have taken over and maybe even taken over the entire universe because she was so freaking powerful. I have to go great with Hela. I think she is a damn good villain. But next we have Vulture, played by Michael Keaton, who, if you know me, I will praise this villain forever. This is my second favorite villain in the MCU because he's a family man who's just doing what he believes is right. They show his character development throughout the entire movie. The movie opens with him, so we really care about this guy from the start. And the twist involving his character, he's actually Liz's dad, which is Peter's homecoming date, is one of the best twists in the entire MCU. I will never forget in the theater when he opens the door and you see Peter's face, and then he goes, "You must be Peter." It's just such a great line. I have to go best of the best with Vulture. He is not only one of the best MCU villains, but arguably the best Spider-Man villain in all the live-action Spider-Man movies. Next we have Crossbones, who we don't really see fully until the beginning of Civil War. Brock Rumlow's character is kind of underused until Civil War, and I feel like a lot of people forget about that opening 20 minutes of the movie where we actually see him fight Cap, and he ultimately does die. But I'm going to go mad with Crossbones, not flat out bad. There's some cool moments, but underused, very unmemorable. Not a lot to him. Next we have Jan Rog from Captain Marvel, who I bet most people forget this villain's name because he is so forgettable. Jude Law, great actor, but in this movie, Jan Rog and the twist regarding Jan Rog doesn't click because I never really cared about the character before the twist happened. He's barely even on screen, actually, and I feel like it was also sort of predictable that it was going to be coming anyway, so Jan Rog, honestly, bad. Next, we have Carly Morgenthau from The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, who, if you know me, I love The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, truly. It might be my favorite TV show. But Carly Morgenthau and the Flag Smashers were always the weak link of that show. I think that it was more about Bucky and Sam's relationship and John Walker's character, but the Flag Smashers were so lame. And I don't like how they tried to make her some hero at the end of the day. Without Carly, I guess there really wouldn't be a plot to this show, so I'll put her in the meh category, even though I truly don't like her that much. Next, we have Razor Fist from Shang-Chi, the newly released MCU film. I'll go meh with Razor Fist just because, again, Razor Fist is the side character, has a few funny bits in Shang-Chi. Other than that, I don't even know if this character is going to have a major role moving forward. Not like a bad character per se. You get a cool fight scene with him and Shang-Chi on the bus. Next, we have Loki. Now, if you watched my Heroes tier ranking, Loki was also on that list. So this is going to be the Loki from Avengers and Thor, the true villainous Loki, as opposed to the more heroic Loki we see in his own TV show and Ragnarok. So Loki as a villain is one of the originals, one of the better ones, especially because we get a backstory on him where he finds out he's adopted and he is part like frost giant. He's not fully the son of Odin. And then he has this like complex where he's always been the younger brother, so it feels like Thor always gets the spotlight. So you really feel for him a lot throughout the MCU. And then he's the original Avengers villain, which is just one of the most iconic movies of all time. It's the first team-up movie. Honestly, as a villain, I'm going best of the best with Loki because he is one of the best MCU villains. What they've done is they had him as a villain and then they kind of took him down a notch, made him a little bit of an anti-hero. Now he's kind of a full-on hero in from the show Loki, so I'm not really sure where they're going with his character, and he's never been one of my favorites, but I do recognize he is easily one of the best true villains in the MCU. So next is the Black Order. Instead of separating all of the children of Thanos into different pictures, I just put them all together. You can kind of see we have Ebony Maw, Cole Obsidian, Corvus Glaive, and Proxima Midnight. I really like them. I'm going to put them in good because Ebony Maw kind of carries this group. The others, again, they're just kind of bantha fodder. If you follow Star Wars, you know what that means. They're just there to get killed and be the next level villain. They're like a step up from the regular henchmen, but they're not Thanos. They're just a little bit more of a threat, so the Avengers have someone more meaningful to fight. So next we have Kang the Conqueror, who, while Kang is never really mentioned, in the version of Kang that we see is not called Kang and is the only good version, I am still going to be putting this villain on the list because in the end of the day, that's a version of a character we're going to see down the road. And at this very moment, I'm going to go good with Kang, and I know a lot of you are probably thinking, well, it's not Kang, it's not Kang. Just the one scene alone with Jonathan Majors talking behind a desk to Sylvie and Loki for 20 minutes to 30 minutes of an entire episode, we know this is going to be great. So I'm just going to go good right now, kind of almost as a benchmark as well for the next time I do this tier ranking. For when we actually get to see more Kang, I can compare this to maybe best to the best, maybe bad. We'll see what happens. Next, we have Malekith, the butt end of every joke about Thor Dark World, putting him in bad. A terrible villain. I don't know what the hell they were doing with the Dark Elves in that movie, but that movie's a snooze fest just like this character. Next we have Obadiah Staying, aka Ironmonger from the first Iron Man, the classic villain from the MCU. Jeff Bridges plays the hell out of this thing, and every time he holds that big old box of pizza with New York slices and Tony has a slice, I always want pizzas, so shout out Iron Man for making me hungry every time I watch it. There's some twists that the first time I watched this movie I didn't see coming regarding his character. I have to go great with Obadiah. I think that he's the right-hand man to Tony Stark, and he wants to take over this industry, but then he becomes power hungry, so I think that it works for what it is, and he is the original, so gotta give him some credit where credit's due. Next we have Red Skull, who I feel like has become more iconic just because of the persona, and especially his role in Infinity War and Endgame. As a villain in Captain America the First Avenger, he's arguably, not even arguably, he's the most one-dimensional villain in the entire MCU. I want to take over the world. I'm a Nazi. Cool. I have to go honestly mad with Red Skull. Like, there was a time where I wanted to say he was like a top 10 villain, like a few years ago when there weren't as many villains as there are now. Next we have Ronan, who's going to be joining Red Skull in the meh tier. He's literally just an extension of Thanos in this movie because they didn't want to fully show Thanos yet. That's the way I look at it. Like, he's doing Thanos' dirty work trying to get the orb, the Power Stone, but again, lame villain. Next we have the Sovereign from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, who they try and set up as the villains early on and they don't show up till the very end, and that's why I have kind of massive issues with Guardians 2. Bad for sure. It's cool that they might set up Adam Warlock in the post-credit scene, one of 5 actually in Guardians 2, but bad. Next we have Mysterio, played by Jake Gyllenhaal, who is a really great villain. Now I know people will say he's another Tony Stark screwed me villain, and I totally understand that, but what he's able to do with these drones and this technology, the way he's able to trick Peter, who at that time, Peter's a very influenced person. He's not going to be able to make his decisions because emotionally he's still recovering from the death of Tony. He's on his field trip in another country, so he's not in the right mindset, so it makes sense that he would hand these glasses over, even though you would think he would have a little more common sense. He's a teenage kid. We all make stupid decisions. He is such a great actor. Gyllenhaal has so much fun in the role. I have to go great with Mysterio, and I really hope he possibly the 6th member of the Sinister Six, and that we get to see him again in No Way Home, or at least in another Marvel movie down the road. Next is Justin Hammer, who's kind of the villain number 2 of Iron Man 2. Sam Rockwell's a damn good actor, Academy Award winner. He crushes it in the role. I love the scene you can see right here where he's going through his weapons arsenal, trying to show off what he's got for an upcoming suit. I'm going to go good with him, honestly. I think that he's the better villain of that movie, and I know that he's actually in the Marvel one-shot, All Hail the King. I did not expect that when I actually watched that for the first time recently. He showed up and I was like, Justin Hammer, and I think he might be coming back in Armor Wars, which excites me. Next is Thanos, the big baddie of the MCU, the iconic GOAT villain. Not only one of the best villains in the MCU, one of the best villains of all time. I'm going best to the best. You already know he's the best MCU villain. I don't know if he'll ever be topped. We'll see. Next we have Ultron, who's a villain that I think is overhated. A lot of people are like, Ultron sucks. He's one of the worst villains in the MCU. James Spader does a hell of a job voicing the character. He's menacing, and there are no strings on me. That line always creeped me out, so I'm going to go good with Ultron. I don't think he's great. I think that he's a very good villain. He's got the screen presence that a lot of the other villains lack. Next we have Wen Wu from Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. This is a damn good villain, arguably top 5, and what they were able to do throughout the course of this movie through the use of flashbacks and just scenes between him and Shang. He is an amazing villain. I have to go great with Wen Wu. He might be a top 5 MCU villain. I think he's damn near up there. Like, I love Wen Wu. Every time I rewatch the movie, I feel more sympathy for him as a villain because they do such a good job of showing his backstory. Shang-Chi, you guys need to go support that movie. It rocks. Check out my spoiler review and MCU Heroes tier ranking if you have not already. So next up is Whiplash from Iron Man 2, who I have to put in the bad tier. I think if you take away the Monaco race sequence, he's barely in this movie. He develops this army of like robot Iron Man suit things at the end and they all fight, but he doesn't really have much screen time except for the opening of the movie, that fight scene that is pictured here on the racetrack, and then of course the very end of the movie where he's in his own suit, which is just outlandish and stupid. His family kind of got screwed by Tony Stark, so he has a vendetta against him, but Justin Hammer was the better villain of this movie, and Whiplash is just bad. He's barely even in the movie. Next we have the Winter Soldier, who, yes, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, you know, Bucky Barnes is a hero, of course, but as the Winter Soldier, like when he's brainwashed, that's what I'm talking about on this list. I'm gonna go great. I think that he is a really menacing presence who can take down pretty much anyone. Probably could have killed Cap in Winter Soldier. He's a major threat. Knowing where he ends up as a hero really enhances his performance as a villain. And last but not least is going to be Zemo from Captain America Civil War, who again we kind of see take on a weird hero role in a way in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but he's still a villain at heart. I'm going to go great with Zemo. Zemo's a great villain because he won. His plan worked. He's able to tear apart the Avengers, and the final scene he has with Black Panther / T'Challa at the end of the movie is just like, it's a gut punch. It really is. He won. He was very smart. He outsmarted everyone. And I love the line when he's locked up at the end and Everett Ross comes in and he says, "How does it feel to do all this and fail?" And he says, "Did it?" He's not going to beat you in a fist fight, but he's going to outsmart you, and I got to give him credit for that. So that's going to do it for my tier ranking of every MCU villain. Definitely hit the like button. Comment your ranking of the villains down below. Do you agree with my list? Do you disagree? Let's have a conversation about it. If you haven't already, definitely hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss out on any future MCU videos, reviews, reactions, all that good stuff. I'm very close to 4,000 subs. It would mean a lot if I could hit that soon, so definitely consider hitting that subscribe button. Thank you all so much for watching. I have a ton of MCU content that just came out on the channel, and I have another video coming out tomorrow ranking the origin movies in the MCU. Hope you have a great long weekend, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.